Hi guys, it's Mr. Jackson. No animals right now. The animals all seem to be off doing their own thing. Here to read chapter 12 of Everlost by Neal Shusterman with permission of Simon and Schuster. And remember last chapter, it's starting to get good. So, I think it's been good the whole time, but it's starting to get really exciting. In her book, Everything Mary Says is Wrong, Allie the Outcast writes, there are mysteries in Everlost. Some of them are wonderful, and others are scary. They should all be explored, though. Perhaps that's why we're here, to experience the good and the bad that Everlost has to offer. I really don't know why we didn't get where we were going, but I do know this much. Being trapped doing the same thing over and over and over again for all time is no way to spend eternity. And anyone who tells you so is wrong. Chapter 12, Learning to Surf. The sense of isolation Allie felt after leaving Mary's domain was as overwhelming and complete as if she had been sealed into a barrel herself. Being out in the living world left her infinitely lonely. Mary could act like the living world didn't matter anymore, but for Allie, it was an ever-present reminder that she could witness, but not participate in life. For days, she tried to work out a plan for rescuing her friends from the clutches of the haunter. And as she schemed and walked, because she had to, she walked because she had to. She was like a shark, always having to stay in motion. And although she had found many dead spots in the city where she could rest, she never lingered long. Then, one day, she had a moment of clarity, and she realized that she had been drawn into her own endless loop. She had been walking the exact same streets in the exact same pattern, and she had been doing it for not days, but for weeks. She had thought she was immune to getting trapped in a ghostly pattern, but she was wrong. The sense of helplessness of it, the sense of inevitability, almost made her spirit cave in and give into the pattern. She almost continued in her repetitive weave of the streets because it was easier than fighting it. It had grown comfortable, familiar. It was the thought of Leaf and Nick, still trapped in those barrels, that broke her out of it, because if she stayed in this rut, she would never find a way to free them. The first step was the hardest. She turned left instead of right on 21st Street, and an immediate sense of panic set in. She wanted to take back her step and return to her old pattern, but she resisted and took one more step, and another and another. Soon the panic settled to mere terror, and the terror settled into normal fear. It only took one city block for her fear to fade into mild foreboding, the type of thing anyone felt when faced with the unknown. Careful not to begin retracing her steps again, she forced herself to go places she had avoided. New York was a crowded city, but there were areas that were less traveled. These were the places Allie had stuck to, for she couldn't handle the crowds that would pass through her as if she wasn't there. Now she forced herself to go to crowded places. It was as she passed through Midtown Manhattan during lunchtime that she discovered something Mary had probably never written about in her various volumes. The streets were crowded. More than just crowded, they were packed. In Midtown, the Midtown towers flushed through sands of people during the lunch hour rush, and of course, They all barreled through Allie as if she wasn't even there. It was terribly unpleasant to feel them pass through her. Much worse than when something inanimate, like a car or a bus, passed through, because a living person had a strange, organic commotion about it. The instant a person passed through her, she could feel the rush of blood, the beating of a heart, the rumble of intestines still digesting whatever they had eaten for breakfast. It was, to say the least, profoundly icky. Much stranger, though, was a sudden disorientation that fell over her when a tightly packed gaggle of businessmen crashed through her. Her thoughts became strange and random, the way thoughts become just before sleep sets in. Stock about to split. Need that raise. No one suspects. Ah, yes, Hawaii. And when the businessman had passed, all that remained were the high decibel sounds of the city. She assumed she was just hearing little bits of their conversation and left it at that. Then it happened again when a crowd of tourists tromped through her on their way to the theater district. Too expensive. Aching feet. What is that smell? Pickpockets. This time she knew she wasn't hearing their conversations because most of them were silent, and the ones who were talking were speaking French. Now she understood exactly what was going on. It was like channel surfing, but she was channel surfing people's minds. She flashed to that moment, mired in the street outside of the Haunter's warehouse. A truck had passed through her, or at least its tires had. She had been very angry, furious. And in that instant, a tire blew as if her anger had caused it to burst. What was it the Haunter had said? You have to discover what other skills you have, because where there is one skill, there are more. Could this be all part of some innate talent in haunting? Was she special in this ability to intrude into the real world, rupturing a tire and reading the minds of the living for brief moments? And then she thought, could those moments be made to last? The next time she mind surfed, she did it intentionally with hopes of catching the wave. Allie found a girl who seemed to be about her age. She was a society-type girl wearing a uniform from some ritzy prep school. Allie followed behind her for a few blocks, matching her pace. Then Allie took a sudden leap forward and stepped right inside of her skin. I could, but if I do, it might not work, and they might not like me. But then they might, and if they don't, they certainly won't even notice me. And the skirt is definitely too tight, and am I gaining weight? Oh, there's that pizza place. No, I'm bursting out of this stupid, ugly skirt, but it smells so good. Whoa. The girl made a sharp turn right and went to the pizza place, leaving Allie there on the street, reeling from the experience. She had surfed the girl's mind for 10 seconds at least. By the time Allie recovered, she was knee-deep in the street and had to pull herself out. I shouldn't have done that, Allie told herself. But even so, she wanted to do it again. That scared her, and so she left 6th Avenue, ducking down a smaller side street, making sure she had absolutely no contact with another living person for the rest of the day. I'll have to tell Nick and Leaf about this, she thought, and that reminded her that unless she rescued them, she would never get to tell them anything. They would spend the rest of their unnatural lives pickling. The only way to rescue them was to find others who could help her, and she had to do it before a new routine set in. Mary and her little club were of no use, so Allie would have to gather her own allies. The question was, where would she find them? She began looking for ghosts of buildings that had crossed over when they were demolished. Only a few buildings did. Maybe 1 out of every 1,000 that met the wrecking ball was deemed worthy by God or the universe or whatever to cross over into Everlost. The old Waldorf Astoria Hotel was the most promising. After all, it was a hotel, so what better place for dead, not dead kids to stay? She pushed through the revolving door to reveal a lobby done up in plush Art Deco splendor. Some singer, long dead, crooned through the big old-fashioned radio singing, Embraceable You. There was a huge bar just off the lobby, but no bottles graced its cherrywood shelves. Instead, a big sign read, "Bar permanently closed due to prohibition. Hello, is there anybody here?" She called twice and rang the bell at the reception desk. Nothing. The combination of 1920s music and the absolute emptiness of the place gave her the horror movie creeps. The hotel wasn't merely deserted. It was soulless, like the haunter's hollow soldiers. She left it as quickly as she could. She had to face the fact that most every afterlife in the city ended up moving in with Mary. Safety in numbers. Mary's little kingdom was simply the place to be in this part of the world. But then, Allie thought, Everlost did have other territories. So, that was chapter 12. It's getting really exciting, right? A couple questions. First, man, that you see Allie start to sort of be inside people's mind or body, and she can tell what people's thoughts are. Would you like to be able to know other people's thoughts? If you would, why? And if you would not, why not? I don't think I would. But some people would. Next, so we already see that Allie started off like just discovering that she could do this. And since she's discovered it, she's already gotten better, because remember, she was in that one girl's mind for 10 whole seconds. So we can only assume that she's going to keep getting better at this skill. How do you think she's going to use this skill? How do you think this skill will help her, if it's going to help her, or hurt her? Yeah, like what is going to come of this skill? And then last, let's like go back into the living world for a second. First of all, these people whose mind she's going into, do you think she knows, or do you think that they know that there's another person there? You know, like reading their thoughts. And then second, like, how do you think that makes them feel? And if they don't know about it, you know, if you don't think that they know, how do you think it would make them feel if they found out? So, a lot of exciting stuff in this chapter. Last chapter, I said, was getting really exciting, and this one also is. So, it's getting fun. I hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend. I know I said I wasn't going to post something on Sundays, and I will probably take most Sundays off, but this was a short chapter and I wanted to read it, so it's a bonus. I'll see you tomorrow. Miss you guys. Stay safe. Tell your family that you love them. Good night.